Hey guys, it's Kaya Logue today, and I'm going to be overviewing the tools and resources for ensuring meaningful communication with limited English proficient parents. This is going to be overviewing Chapter 10, so all the information in this presentation is from Chapter 10. To begin, I'd like to go over some key terms. So starting with SEA, we have State Education Agency. LEA is Local Education Agency. ELs is English Learners. HLS is Home Language Survey. IEP is Individualized Education Program. DOJ is the U.S. Department of Justice. LEP is Limited English Proficient. In this chapter, it's most likely going to be LEP parents, Limited English Proficient parents. We have the OCR, the U.S. Department of Education Office for Civil Rights. An interpreter is a person who translates orally from one language to another, and a translator is a person who has proficiency in target languages. They have ease of written and oral expression, knowledge of specialized terms or concepts, and they are trained on the rule of ethics and the need for confidentiality. The key points that were listed in this chapter are as follows. SEAs and LEAs must communicate meaningfully with limited English proficient parents of students within the classroom. Limited English proficient parents should be notified about all information regarding programs, services, and activities. This may include, but is not limited to, information about language assistant programs, special education, and related services, individualized education program meetings, grievance procedures, notices of non-discrimination, student discipline policies and procedures, registration and enrollment, report cards, requests for parent permission of student participation in district or school activities, parent-teacher conferences, parent handbooks, and gifted and talented programs, as well as magnet and charter schools. LEAs must create a process to identify limited English proficient parents and provide these parents and students with free and useful language assistance, such as translated materials, translators, or interpreters. LEAs must determine if parents and guardians have limited English proficiency, what their primary language is, and what their language needs are in order to help the student be successful. The chapter talked about appropriate and competent translators or interpreters should have proficiency in target languages, ease of written and oral expression, knowledge of the specialized terms or concepts, as well as being trained on the rule through ethics and interpreting and translating, and most importantly, the need for confidentiality. Some of the tools that we will be overviewing today is number 1, establishing family-school partnerships. The textbook discussed how this provides a framework for family engagement activities that helps schools and families partner for improved student outcomes. Second, tapping into strengths of families and communities. The textbook discussed that this provides educators with ideas to establish and maintain strong parental engagement in schools. And 3, interpretation and translation resources. This contains multiple resources for interpretation and translation for both students, parents, and educators. The first tool is establishing family-school partnerships, so I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. This framework that we see on the left was formulated based off of research on effective family engagement, homeschool partnership strategies and practices, adult learning and motivation, and leadership development. So basically the education program, they looked at all these different successful ways to complete each of those, such as homeschooling or adult learning, and they created this list of how to go through it. So first we look at the challenge, then we look at the opportunity/conditions that are there. We then look at policy and program goals, and family and staff capacity outcomes is the last one to examine. If you can meet all 4 of those criteria, then you can help your student and parents and everyone be successful in their education plan. Diving more into tool number 2, which is tapping into the strengths of families and communities, the textbook discussed that the major overview is to bridge family culture in schools. So in order to do this, we must do these 3 things. Educators must identify family strengths in order to encourage the students' parents to be engaged in their child's education. The second one is when educators focus on family strengths, this creates a very strong relationship between home, school, and community. Third, is when schools partner in community events or helping the community. This promotes all of the following. It promotes family engagement, it helps the schools, and it encourages families to support student learning. Tool number 3 is interpretation and translation resources. So the textbook had a lot of links and a lot of different resources. So they had them for federal resources. Then I see the difference between an interpreter and a translator. And then they also have National Interpreter and Translator Associations and organizations. So these are a variety of resources regarding interpreters and translators, and these can be used to help guide SEAs, LEAs, and parents and students. Chapter 10 also provided many resources. Some of the ones that I listed on here are as follows. The first one is engaging ELL families. So it has 20 strategies for school leaders with questions, and it encourages you to reflect and fill out the checklist to see what is needing from the teacher or what information we need from the families in order to incorporate into the school. The second one is a Center for Parent Information and Resources. This is for English language learners, and that one is for parents, so they can go on there and get any help they need with their students. The third one that I see is building collaboration between schools and parents of English language learners, transcending barriers and creating opportunities for the students. So this is something that students, teachers, educators, and parents can all look at, and they can learn how to better work together to help their student be successful and gain more opportunities. Moving on, I have the Regional Education Laboratory for the Pacific, which is a resource for engaging parents and communities as partners in education. Next, I have the U.S. Department of Education and Southwest Educational Development Laboratory, and this partners in education, again, building the framework for family-school partnerships. We really want to build these relationships with one another, because when we have relationships between work, school, student, and home, it just all falls together and the student has the support they need to be successful. The last one I have is for Vietnamese American young leaders, and this is for Asian and Latino families, and it speaks out on the barriers in the educational system in public schools. I will next discuss how to apply and implement these meaningful communication with our limited English proficient parents in our classroom. So for example, you could ask, how is this information in Chapter 10 useful for classroom teachers? I wrote from the textbook that research shows that strong family-school relationships are an indicator of student success. How can you incorporate new ideas from Chapter 10 into your teaching? I would personally incorporate the home language surveys, the HLS system, report cards, parent-teacher conferences, individualized education program meetings, and etc. into my classroom. What have I learned from Chapter 10 that I can apply in my teaching or for other future teachers? I learned that incorporating language identification procedures, interpretation and translation services, as well as honoring and reflecting the diversity of families, which means including their language and culture inside the classroom, is vital to having successful students. Last but not least, we have some questions to consider. So taking away everything that you learned from this presentation, I want you to go home and consider these questions. Starting with family, language, and culture, how does the school honor and reflect the diversity of families, including their languages and cultures? Are parent meetings and school events scheduled with interpreters present on dates and times that facilitate LEP parents' participation? Secondly, language identification procedures. What process will you make for determining parents' language needs? What languages are common to the community that you will need to have material and translators available for? And lastly, for interpretation and translation services, what is the process for acquiring qualified and trained interpreters and translators? How do you determine that the LEA staff is competent and appropriate to serve as interpreters or translators? Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.